episode of The Everyday Leader. Your host, Dr. Anani. I'm here today with the fantastic and phenomenal Marcella Ryan Cooker. She will do her own introduction because it's this young lady is a force to reckon with, and I am very honored and humbled to know her. Um, Marcella, welcome to The Everyday Leader.
Hey, hi, hi, hi. Thank you for having me. It's really wonderful to be online with you today.
Yeah, so great having you here. Um, I want to start with, you know, October was Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and
Yeah.
you were taking the lead on that, especially when it came to, shield yourself and protect yourself, and messages that involve radiation exposure and radiation safety for women, especially in orthopedics. Um, so yeah, tell me, just let's start with that experience. How was it? It was interesting to me as just a bystander looking in and involved in a little bit, but tell me how it was.
It was great actually. So it started off because I wanted to write a blog post about just breast cancer awareness in general. And then I just thought about how I struggle myself in theater with the lead aprons and all of that. So for those who don't know, lead aprons are just the shields we're supposed to wear to protect ourselves from the x-rays. And so I thought, it would be like a nice way to bring that to the front since we hardly ever talk about it anyway. So I thought, that's an interesting way. And then so we have like a WhatsApp group of the other residents here. So I dropped it by them like, hey guys, what do you think? I'm doing a blog post about this. Do you guys want to send me photos in your lead shield so that we just see how it fits, how it doesn't fit? And then everyone's excited. And then it became a whole movement. So then I'm like, okay, well, we can spread it out and get more people involved. So then we had brunch because any excuse to have food and take cute photos. So we had brunch, we got t-shirts printed out, and then I sent a message around to all you guys about joining the conversation online because the more people you get, the better. The more the algorithm pushes out the content anyway if people are engaging with it. So yeah, it was really nice and the feedback was so amazing. Like it was incredible. Like it uh, um, blew up in a bigger way than I thought it would. Initially, it was just going to be a blog post. I write blog posts every now and then, but I'm glad I asked my colleagues what they thought about it because it really like just pushed me over to making the conversation bigger. And I think it's the start of something incredible because now more people know about it, more people are talking about it, and we have a real chance of having lead protectors that actually fit us as women in author.
Yeah, I mean, it took, like you said, it became uh, alive, and it was beautiful because it involved a lot of people from, like you said, from everywhere across the globe,
Yeah.
and it was really, really good, and it was an important message because
Yeah.
as physicians, we tend to put our profession and our job and everything else first, and then people may not see that part, and nobody recognizes that part, but we usually put ourselves last,
Yeah.
which is really sad. And we take on all the risk, so it was very important, and thank you for doing that. I think it was an important message to put out.
Yeah.
So we already have settled that you're amazing. So how did you become this amazing? Let's talk about that. What's the story beyond, the LinkedIn posts and the blogs and everything? Who's Marcella? And what passion drives you?
I don't know. Every time someone says introduce yourself, I'm like, where do I start? What do I talk about? What do I not talk about? But if you take away my professional LinkedIn bio in that sense and ask me who I am outside of surgery, I'll probably just tell you that I am just a girl from Sierra Leone who has always just I wanted my life to mean more than just myself. So Sierra Leone, I don't know. Okay, you've never been to Sierra Leone, but maybe you might know that for the longest time in the 90s there was a war in Sierra Leone. So almost my entire childhood was just confusion and chaos. And then I just watched a very fragile health system, just poverty and hunger and just struggles. So I didn't always want to be a doctor. I wasn't one of those people, but I've always liked helping people. And so I think as I grew older, it sort of just, I don't know, found its way there. But yeah, I feel like I can still help and heal others while just holding on to like my own creativity and parts of me that make me human. And so that's why I blog, I tell my story, and I'm just rooted in those things. So if you say like, tell me three things that are really important to you outside of surgery or things that you're passionate about, I'll say my faith. I grew up in a Christian home, so a lot of the things I do are based and grounded on my faith in God. And then I love to tell my story. So I write, I blog, I share stuff online most of the time when I have time anyway. And then I love community. I think community is so important. It just supports you in every form. You take your people wherever you go and you just love on them and they love on you right back. So yeah, outside of work, I think that's who I am and that's who I'm passionate about. I also love photography, taking photos and hikes and all the stuff. But yeah, that's just like the little bits and pieces that surround me being a surgeon as well.
That's beautiful, and very powerful because, you mentioned that your country, unfortunately, which is a common story when it comes to African countries, very war torn, civil war here and there, very unstable, and you see this great people, this amazing human beings coming out of, places like that. And that's really why I hold on to the hope that things are gonna be better in the future, because despite all that, if you still see great people coming out, doing amazing work, it means it might take a couple of generations, but something for sure will change permanently. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's very important to stay true to who we really are, because most of the time people try to find identity in other things. And a profession is one of those things that, people identify with. And when you ask them who they are, they have no answer for you. They're like, well, this is who I am. I'm a doctor. I'm a surgeon. So even people who know them only, refer to them as Dr. Someone. You're like, why is this person calling you Dr. Someone? You need to have a circle. Yeah, that just calls you by your first name or your nickname. You know what I mean? Because that is addressing or connecting with the human in you. So I love that you mentioned that. Um, so if anybody knows you and has been following your work, it's easy to see that you're quite the advocate, and you're advocate for women, and you are an advocate for equity. So representation, we talk about representation all the time in, different fields and different aspects, but why does it matter? Especially when it comes to surgery, not even orthopedic surgery, even in surgery as in general, why is it important, and why should it be central to the health equity conversation?
How many minutes do I have to answer that?
Go ahead. The floor is yours.
So, every time I hear someone say something about representation, a thousand things come to my mind. And that's because there's so much to unpack and so much to talk about when we talk about representation and what it really means. It's these days it's not uncommon to just use representation as a buzzword because people feel like it's cool. It sounds like the right thing to say, that gender diversity, inclusion, and all those things. But in the real sense of the word, it means so much more. So okay, just the other day, there's this like girl youth advocate that I follow online. She was just sharing her successes. She's a Zimbabwean. Then she relocated with her mom or something like that. Anyway, she did her master's at Oxford, and then she got a scholarship for a PhD at Harvard. So she was just sharing stuff. And then among the many, many mean comments that she got from people on Twitter, one person said, "You got into Harvard as part of a diversity quota." And even though that's a very ignorant comment, I I don't blame them, because these days when people talk about diversity, it sounds like, okay, we're doing this and then we give 2 points to someone who's from a marginalized group. It's not like they actually mean supporting you in that way. And that is why someone like that can come online and say you're just part of a diversity quota, because that's how it seems sometimes, sadly, unfortunately. But then, like I said, in every sense of the word, representation is bigger. Like it's a whole actual thing. It's not just the word to throw around to say, or what. When you see someone who looks like you, who's doing something you've been told is not for people like you, it rearranges like your entire self of possibility. I know what that did for me. Like, before I started residency, I think I knew less than 5 women in author. But then, because at home there is no female orthopedic surgeon, so I never got to see that at home. Everyone that I knew was not Sierra Leonean, and there were not that many. So meeting women in ortho really changed my view on what I can be, because it's so easy to be what you see modeled when you're working or growing up and all of that. But in surgery, that's even more critical, because so many decisions, so many clinical decisions, leadership decisions, and policies, they're all being made by people who have very little knowledge or experience of the realities of the communities that they serve. So you find that these rooms don't have women. Sometimes it doesn't even have Africans. It lacks diversity in every sense. And if we were talking on like a global scale, so sometimes there are no people from low and middle income countries. So the blind spots are just so many. And so it means that so many voices are missing. Like, so many communities are left unseen, because you know funding goes to whose story is heard. It's just the way it is. Like, the people who have a seat at the table are the people whose data are being pushed outside, are the people whose problems are being looked for solutions for, and all those things. So if those people are not at the table, it means their stories are not being heard, their communities are left unseen, and all those things. So it's such a big topic. Like, we cannot talk about health equity and not talk about representation. I don't think that is possible. I just don't think it is possible, because, like I said, people's voices have to be heard, and all those things. And health equity is about trust as much as it is about access. You can say we're talking about universal health coverage and all those things, but trust is important. In our settings, when a patient comes to the hospital and they don't see someone who looks like them, they build a wall. It's just how it is. When they see someone who looks like them, someone who understands your religious traditions, their cultural values, then they start to communicate. Then that wall comes down. Then they have a better chance at recovery and just cooperating with the treatment you give. So, in my opinion, I feel like we cannot talk about health equity in surgery or in any discipline at all without talking about representation and how we're actually going to support those people who represent minority groups.
100% agreed. Oh my gosh, you've made so many good points there. It really, I think, okay, this is also because of the technology is great, obviously. I mean, technological advancement have completely changed the way people live, survive in the world, right? Um, but at the same time, it has its drawbacks, and one of the drawbacks it has is um, it perpetuates a message, whether it's wrong or right.
Yeah,
um so some words are in style, they're fashionable, so everybody uses them, which in a way makes them lose their importance and the weight that they have. Because familiarity changed a lot of things. Being familiar with something and actually doing something are very different things. So just because you keep saying representation or equity and stuff like that, it doesn't mean it's actually being done. And I
yeah,
think that's my observation. I don't know if it's yours, and I want to hear your thoughts on that. But I see a lot of meetings and papers and everything coming out um, on equity and representation and all sorts of stuff, but on the ground,
it is different.
it's different.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like sometimes I worry, what are we missing? Are we just being too familiar with the words and just being are we comfortable with just talking about it and not
Mm.
doing anything about it? I don't know. It always bothers me. What do you think?
No, I totally agree with you. Last week, I actually had like another talk with some students from Austria. Some of my friends connected me with them. Anyway, the talk was again on representation. They know I like this talk. So, yeah. So I was telling them that I think sometimes representation doesn't equal belonging. So you're invited to the table, but you're not supposed to contribute. They want your face at the table because you tick a box saying there's a woman on that table. But when it comes to actually meeting the needs of women in that conversation, they don't want to hear it. It's like you can be here, but you're not allowed to speak. So just smile, say hi, how are you? Nice to meet you, and then leave the table. But that is not what representation is. If you invite me to that table, I should be able to speak my mind, and it shouldn't be trivialized. Like you can't just downplay it and say, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal, or, women can always manage, you can always adapt. Like we shouldn't have to adapt. The system should adapt to women. Like, why should we have to change who we are just to fit into a society who has or who is determined to not make changes so that women own their place at the table. So I totally agree with you on that. I think lately there's a lot of conversation, but like you said, technology, social media, we're all just seeing things online and feeling like it's the cool thing to say, like just sprinkle it everywhere, like diversity and inclusion, and it sounds nice and funders are happy that you take 200 men and you give two spots to women because yay, there's a woman at the table. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Yes, let's call them out. So you're right, and I hate it. I hate it when people think this is a women issue. This is not a
It's not.
women issue. It's a society issue. It's the issue of our future. Um, okay, let's say you're a man. Okay, fine, you're a man. Aren't you gonna have daughters? Don't you have
Yeah,
sisters? Don't you
exactly.
have
And you
mothers?
have
Like
sisters.
your entire life, you're surrounded by women. Whether I mean, you know what I mean? Like both genders exist. Okay, whatever. But you can't say this is just a women thing. It's not my fight. Yeah, I don't want to say anything. No, it's
Yeah,
everybody's issue. And like you
everybody.
said, um, systems are built to fit into the times that they were built for, right? But
Mhm.
a lot of systems have changed.
Yep.
So this system has to also change.
Yeah, the world is changing. Technology is changing. The way we meet these days is changing. Everything is online. 10 years ago, nothing was. You had to go in person for every meeting, every class, every lecture, every whatever. So times are changing, but people decide what they want to change with those times, what they give priority to, what is important, and what maybe should just adapt
Mm,
to that old system because it's not that big of a deal anyway. But yeah,
yeah,
we're
it's
doing
crazy. It's crazy that you see some countries that never even had, the telephone lines. Um,
yeah, that's why I'm
but
looking.
you have people with smartphones in like some rural area, but when it comes to a girl going to school or a woman being a doctor or a leader, ooh, God forbid. You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
just I don't even understand sometimes.
Choose what advances we want to support and what sounds like innovation and progress and what is just not necessary. Like,
Exactly. And
mm,
true progress is really when all parts of society are equally valued.
yes,
That's the
absolutely.
real progress.
That is
Yeah,
what progress is. It's not just taking one out of 10 parts of a thing and saying, okay, you can count it as some progress, but progress in general is everything moving together
yeah,
in a way. But yeah.
yeah, yeah. I agree. So currently, what resources do you see that are available, whether it's in Sierra Leone or Kenya or the other countries you've been to? What do you think are the available resources being implemented currently to address this gap, especially in surgery, where the disparity is just extremely pronounced. Even in Western society, whether it's in the UK or US or Australia, um, women still represent less than 15% in the
Yeah.
surgical fields, right? There you find more women in fields like OBGYN, which is really good, but still in other fields, it's a very small number. Um, and when it comes to Africa, it's always worse than that, right? Unfortunately. So, what resources do you see that are available currently?
I think there's quite a number of mentorship programs which I think are really, really great because um, you don't always get to see women surgeons or women lead in surgery in Africa, especially maybe in like in the Americas or in Europe, it's easier to see because there are many steps ahead of Africa in that regard. So it's really nice to see all these mentorship programs coming up where women get access to other women who have developed their own careers, gone through this whole process of surgical training, they've lived experiences on these things and can guide you and share their thoughts with you, or just mentor you in terms of like research if you're into research and all these things. So I see like a lot of mentorship programs and I think it's really nice. I also see in some societies, again in high income countries, where there are like male ally groups or like male allies supporting like just dismantling this gender gap and gender barriers for women and like other groups. And I think that's also really amazing because, like we said just now, it's not a woman thing, it's like a society thing. And the more men we get to support the women in these training programs and surgical programs, the better, because whether we like it or not, the current structures support men. The head of departments, the program directors, the hospital managers, they're literally in most of the it's nice to see some of them come out and say, no, I am trying to my institution more women friendly. I'm changing policies. I'm supporting the women in this way or the trainees. And it's really nice. And here in Kenya, I think another thing is just WhatsApp groups. It's very informal, but it's really nice. It's just women telling each other that I see you, I've been there, and this is how I survived, and it's okay, and I'm here if you need me to help. And it's also really great, even though it's not like a formal, structured mentorship program, it's like a safe space where women can share their thoughts, their experiences. If something's bothering them, if they're looking for help with something, they can always reach out to their colleagues. And I think this is really nice. But the thing, though, is that even though all these opportunities are there, I feel like they're still not enough, especially if you work in male dominated specialties like ortho. It's still a struggle. We're building and we're all advocating and pushing harder for better systems, better structures. But I think the foundation on which we're standing is still quite thin. And so we still have a bit of work to do in that regard, because those resources, those programs don't really eliminate the gender gap. They just sort of um, give you a space where you feel like you belong, and you get more support in specialties where women are underrepresented, but they don't really completely eliminate the gender gap that already exists in these programs. But that's not to say they're not important. They're really critical steps. They're making a difference in how we experience our programs, how we experience training, and how we even support the ones that are coming behind us. Because now we have like a sort of blueprint in a way, so it makes it a bit easier in that sense. But altogether, I think it's way more better than it was, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago even, um, when there were very little or no women in ortho or in other surgical fields in Africa. I think things are changing. I think in the next maybe 5, 10 years, we would see a completely different, or at least we hope to see a completely different framework in how institutions support women in surgery.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Really, I think what's really currently available is mentorship, and you know, mentorship doesn't get enough accolade because the one thing that has sustained the system that was built at first, which is male dominated, is actually informal mentorship.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the boys hangout, it's the boys club, it's them grabbing beer after work or grabbing coffee because you're all boys, you know what I mean? You got so many things that you can relate with each other about on. So you're just like, yeah, let's hang out. And that person becomes your mentor. When you're taking an exam, they'll tell you, okay, this is what's probably gonna happen, prepare this way, and things like that. So now you have insider information. So it helps you in being successful. So really mentorship is so fundamental. um it is not splashy, it's not shiny, it's not something you see the effect immediately, but that that will plant seeds that are gonna grow um to become big in the future, right? Like you said, and it creates that chain reaction because you being mentored means now you're like, oh, okay, wait a minute, this person guided me this way and it helped me. Let me just do something for somebody else. You know what I mean? It sounds so trivial, but it is so important and very, 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 the impact is very huge. And um, I want women to not be, because I see sometimes people trying to, uh, for a lack of better word, like shame you to for wanting
Mm,
to better. It's like, what do you gotta give? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's not that deep. Like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about mentoring?
It's absolutely not. And I think sometimes mentorship is not even about the exams. It's just about having someone listen. Sometimes that's all you want, someone who listens, or someone who can just relate to you when I complain and go on a rant and say, "Oh, doc, you know," da, 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 da," and then you tell me, I know exactly how that feels because 5 years ago or 2 years ago, I absolutely experienced something similar, and this is how I navigated it. Or yeah, sometimes it's not even about just like the formal exams, and there will always be exams and things to study for and all of that, but sometimes it's just the very little things, like just being seen and being heard, because as women in surgery, it's so hard sometimes. You're in a room full of people who don't understand. The other day I was excited that I had one more female in the theater, and one of my juniors told me, "That's very sexist." I'm like, "What do you mean that's sexist? Like, are you kidding me? I am surrounded by 7 male residents. Is it so bad for me to be excited that there's one more female in the room that can just relate to me as a woman?" Like, and sometimes that's all you need, really, to be honest. Like, just having, like, so I have one of the female consultants over here. Every time I see her with like a cute nail polish, I'm like, way to go, because why not? Sometimes it's just the very little things that just make you feel like, I deserve to be here. It's okay to be here. I have earned it, and it's totally fine. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah. Really, really. I love all those points you made. It's profound. The effect is profound.
Yeah.
It really helps you to deal with the imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
the thing you were talking about, not belonging. And when you see somebody like you, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not that odd. I do belong in this space. Yeah, so I completely agree. Although I also think we should not be satisfied with this. There needs more needs to be done. Um,
Yes.
but we're definitely on the right track towards change. So yeah, so this is what's available. And
Yeah.
oh, my next question. This one is gonna take you a while. What doesn't exist? What is lacking? And I especially want you um, to think about it in a sense, not just the medical profession or the surgical profession, but also the cultural context through which women have to still go through education and advance in their career or aspire for leadership positions. So, what's lacking?
Okay, where do we start? I think, okay, so in terms of work, I'll come back to the cultural bits later, but in terms of like institutional, the part of the institution, I think the big part that we're missing is structural commitment. Like, as we've said, we can mentor each other endlessly, and we're doing that already, but mentorship is not going to fix a broken system. Mentorship is not going to solve all those other problems that exist in the institutions, or that the institutions that are built on that do not support women. So gender sensitive training programs, breastfeeding policies, maternity leaves, paternity leaves, just how how doctors and surgeons are being promoted. Is it based on me being a woman or my competence, or is it based on that male surgeon just by virtue of him being a man? Are we protected from discrimination? Again, back to where we started about PPEs and equipments that actually fit women. Is that even being considered? Or are they just saying, oh, well, let them find a lead shield that fits or is manageable. Like, so all those things. And about funding, how are projects funded? Are they, are there any projects that are women led or with a focus on how to improve conditions for women or the services that women provide, or just leadership training? Are there any leadership training for women in surgery, or how are leaders chosen in these structures? Like, there are so many institutional problems that still exist that, like we said, mentorship cannot fix. Mentorship can support us to move from point A to point B, but it doesn't fix these broken systems. It doesn't change the policies. It doesn't make it a more um, woman friendly institution. So there's all those things. And then there's the cultural part, which again is sometimes is crazy, for lack of a better word, especially when you come from African settings, because in many places in Africa, the idea is that women are homemakers. And it's not to say you can't be a homemaker and be a surgeon, but the general idea is women are supposed to take care of the home. Women aren't really meant to be in medicine. So first you're facing institutional barriers, and then there's all these expectations from society, from families, sometimes even from your colleagues. I have totally, absolutely lost count of the amount of times someone has asked me about me getting married, about having kids, about, like, I have lost count, whether it's my colleagues, whether it's my siblings, whether it's my parents, whether it's just aunties from the village. Like, it's crazy. So then there's 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 all of that. Well, first you're fighting the problems of the hospital, and then you're dealing with how society looks at you. Sometimes even patients come to the hospital and they address you as a nurse just because in their heads a woman cannot be a doctor, let alone say a surgeon. So I'm like, I'm the doctor. I'm waiting for the doctor. I am that doctor you're waiting for. Mm-mm, not you. That other doctor. Sometimes they even talk to my junior colleagues. I'm like, now what is this? But yeah, so there's all these things. And someone might want to say this is my experience, and it is my experience. But last year, what was it, earlier of this year anyway, we published a paper on that because we did like a survey just to see the cultural barriers around women um, in surgical fields. And it wasn't just author, it was like every surgical field, and it was consultants, fellows, residents, or just med students going into surgical fields. And more than 70% of those people have experienced this. So it's not just a me problem. It's not just me and my circle problem. It's like a very widespread thing. And I think to some extent it also affects how we see ourselves. Again, back to the conversation around the imposter syndrome, because if your institution is fighting you, and then your community is also fighting you, then you're just there wondering, like, do I belong here? Am I really supposed to be a doctor or a surgeon? Am I good enough? Am I qualified enough? Do I show up enough? And you could be doing all those things, but it's just because sometimes you just lack the support of someone saying, I see you, you're doing well, just keep doing what you do. Um, so yeah, like, it's a lot, to sound very Gen Z, like, it's a lot for women in surgery down here. I think it's changing a little, but we still have some ways to go with these things.
Yeah, that's really funny. And it's pretty much the same wherever you go. This whole you cannot be the doctor. It's probably that male next to you, standing next to you. I mean, he can be a nurse. They don't even care. They're just like, no, him. So, but that's the culture they came from. And for a very long time, doctors were only male, let
Yeah.
alone surgeons and leaders and things like that. But yeah, those are all true. Everything you mentioned, if not more, we probably are missing out on hundreds of other things.
Of
Actually,
other things, yeah. There's so much, like, so much, because there's also like the religious parts of things, like what religion do you come from? What does
oh
that
yeah,
religion see women as or as not? So like
yeah,
there's like a whole bunch of things that tie into
yeah.
women
They're
deciding
leaders.
to, yeah, pursue surgical fields.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I also, I tell most of my mentees, I try to put realistic expectations for them, um, because you can do a lot of things, if not everything, but a lot of things, but it just cannot be at the same time.
Mhm.
So, uh, if you do want to get married, just know what you should expect in marriage while being a professional, because it's different.
Mhm.
That's just the honest truth, you know. When you are, let's say, a stay-at-home mom, which is a blessing, to be honest, because that's all a child would need is their mom around them, right? Okay, but as a professional, you might not have that opportunity to be at home with your kids all the time. Okay, so if you have realistic expectations, then you'll find ways to seal or address certain gaps that can exist both in your professional life and in your home life, because you know, you might be on call while your kid is sick and you still have to leave your kid to go treat somebody else's child.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of your profession. It's the oath you took. um and you miss, and that's actually, you know, you might lose somebody from your family, and you might still have to go in for work. Like, who grieves in 2 days? You know, who grief is such a profound and long process, and you don't even have time for that. And not saying that what we do as professionals is not novel and important, but there's also this human aspect of sacrifices are gonna, you know, sacrifices are gonna happen, and just have a realistic expectation. And you can be mad at it, you can be sad about it, but accept it while going in,
What it is, pretty much.
Yeah. So I think that's very important as well to talk about. Okay, so we're just on the tip of the iceberg, because the iceberg is bigger underwater. um, and now we go to leadership. Okay, it's one thing going into a male-dominated field, a system, a workplace culture that is inconsiderate of us as women. And now we want to become leaders, and we have to become leaders because you need to have some sort of power to effect change, right? So, you know, how do we navigate that climb? Because you can already be exhausted at the bottom before you even get that high. So how do we navigate that climb?
I don't know if I have the right answer to that question, but I think we can start by refusing to disappear. Because all these things we have talked about are not even always at like leadership levels. It's just usually starting earlier on in your career and all of that. So there's going to be so many reasons for you to just say, you know what, let me just leave this thing and, I don't know, move on to something else. But just refusing to disappear, first of all, is how we start fighting the battle and climbing that ladder. Because also sometimes it feels like you're trying to climb the ladder, but then you're holding the ladder over here and the institution over here at the same time. And it can just feel so overwhelming. Um, but we don't have to lead like the people who had come before us. Women are different. We have a strong sense of service. We're more empathetic. We're more intentional, and I think women are really courageous. I think the last time when we were on the IOTA webinar, we actually talked a bit about this and how just our femininity as women and just as natural carers is a bonus point for us in just being amazing surgeons, because by nature women care more about the job, about the patients, about outcomes, about everyone. Literally, we like that sense of, if a woman is a team leader, you want to take care of your team members, you want to call them up when they're not well, making sure they are feeling better and all those things. So that is a bonus. It's like a free gifted bonus for us. And so just choosing to lean into that femininity and not trying to become more like the men who were there before us, because there's that, you might have that urge to be more like them so that they see you in that way and give you that opportunity. But I don't think that is what we need to climb the ladder. Of course, there are things we might have to adjust as you go on, but to a huge extent, just that our natural femininity, it goes a long way, like just in how people can relate to you and how you listen to people and how you offer advice and all those things. It won't always be easy. There will be times when it would be really hard, you feel overwhelmed and all those things. I've had moments where I am the youngest person in the room, or the only woman, or the only African, or you're just presenting at like this really huge conference, and in the morning I'm texting my friends like, yo, I don't know, like it feels like such a weight that you're carrying, because you're representing yourself, you're representing women, you're representing your country, you're representing the entire continent. Everyone is looking at you like, now what? But to be a leader, I think it's just showing up. You choose to show up every day. You choose to show up with integrity, with empathy. You choose to just move with that quiet confidence of someone who knows that they have earned their place. And you just lead by being excellent and refusing to shrink. And I think, okay, I have sort of grown a bit in my career the last few years, and some of the ways that I've done that is by just finding mentors, someone that is where I aspire to be or is doing something that inspires me in a way. And also being a mentor. I really like mentoring the younger medical students and just younger girls, because I think it's it gives them a sense of purpose to see someone reach a certain level, and they're also young-ish, not that I'm that young, but young-ish, and it makes them see that it's okay and it's possible. And I like that. I really like that. And I also think that just owning your story is also very important, because you're either telling your story yourself or someone else is telling that story on your behalf. I'd rather tell my story myself. So I think it's important to own your story and tell it the way that you want it to be told, through your own lived experiences. And then another thing is just building competence. Like, even though we talk about all these other challenges, you have to be competent in what you do. Like, there's no two ways of being a good leader if you're not competent at what you do. So just build your competence, be so good at what you do that they might not like you, but they can't deny it. They would just be like, that one, fine, whatever. And then keep advocating for yourself. Like, even when you feel like you're nervous about it, you feel like your voice is shaking and you feel like, oh, this space is too big for me, just keep advocating for yourself, because half the time you'd find that there's no one advocating for you if you're not advocating for yourself. And create a community. I love communities, even at work. because it's easier to grow as a group than in isolation. If you're just one person fighting on a regular for something today, something different tomorrow, something different the other day, you might make a difference, but it's not the same as coming together as a group of people and just doing it together, growing together, and just raising your voices together. Whoever said two heads are better than one is very smart, because yeah, two heads are oftentimes better than one. And then the last thing I'd probably say is, if you don't get offered a seat at the table, build your own table. Like, figure out how to carry yourself through. Or something that someone told me was that, bring your own folded chair and just put it in a strategic place where you're next to the person in power, like the person with the highest power on the table. But yeah, it's just that idea of just seeking out opportunities to learn, to grow, to be better, to advocate for better systems. And yeah, I think leadership is more than just the title that you hold, because the title will be there, it could be there, and it's nice, but it's more about the change that you are able to create as a leader.
Yeah, that is, you said a lot of great things right there. And the, I asked you that question because you are in the process. Because sometimes when people pass through a process and they become like someone in a leadership position, you tend to forget a lot of things. You tend to forget the day-to-day struggles, the tears and the horrible comments from, whether it's your colleagues or your patients or whoever it is from, but you tend to forget that. But um when you're going through it, you're actually experiencing it, so it's, you might not forget those experiences. So that's why I asked you, and you put it in such a lovely way. Because sometimes and the storytelling part, I love you mentioned that somebody else will tell that story, because the number of times where I me personally have done things that are of impact, and then somebody comes along and says, you know oh, that is easy, I could have done it. Well, yeah, now you can say that.
Yeah,
And these are not people who are not even there. They were there and they didn't do it. They couldn't do it. You came and did it, and now they're like, and it's usually men. I'm gonna call out. I'm gonna call them out. It's usually men. Yeah, I could have done it as well.
cake, not that deep, not that hard.
You know,
Easy, easy.
yeah. She's
Yeah.
just she's just getting this credit because she's a woman.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's better to tell your story, because you tell it based on your own experiences and in your own way, instead of someone just coming to say, "Oh, that was an easy thing." Yeah, well,
And
and,
dismiss
and
everything, every
it's
single hard
like
work.
the whole process and all of it. So yeah, it's very important to tell your own story in the way that you want to tell it, and based on your own experiences going through that.
Yeah. And it's also like very important for the audience, the women, the younger women who are coming in, to understand what to expect,
Yeah.
because the person who's saying it's easy is saying it's easy because they haven't done anything.
From their perspective also, because you as a man, until you live a day as a woman, you can't tell me what I'm supposed to feel or not feel, or how I'm supposed to feel it or not feel it, because we're completely different people. Same way I can't tell a man how to feel, because I have never lived a day as a boy child. Like, my whole life has been as a girl child. So until that person actually goes through your experiences the same way, or has the same gender biases or cultural differences and all those things, they can really say the real version of that story. That story is yours to tell, and yours to tell alone.
100%. 100% agree. Um, okay, so um, let's talk quickly about scrubs, scalpels, and high heels. Okay. How did it come about? And what are you proud of when it comes to that specific project of yours? And what challenges do you want to tackle still?
That's my personal blog. Well, at least that's how it started. 5 years ago, I completed a master's at UCL, and anyway, before that, I was always someone who loved writing. I used to like do really well in school with compositions and those things because I think I have like a creative writing thing. So when I finished UCL was really a different kind of educational life for me. Coming from Sierra Leone, going there, it's like one of the best schools. The competition was crazy. It was a steep learning curve. Like I had so much to share. I felt like I didn't have that going in. Like no one told me how it was gonna be, like how hard, how different, what to expect, what not to expect. So I thought, I really want to share this story, so maybe I should start a blog. And that was it. Then I shared that UCL story, and then it was so good. Like people just like sent me messages and all those things. And then I thought, oh well, now that the blog is there, subscription and all of that, I can just sharing my life and my stories around work. So then I started just blogging about random things about the health system at home, work experiences, good days, bad days, challenges, and all those things. And yeah, that's how it started. And then yeah, now sometimes I also like feature people in the blog and get other people to like share things on there, and it's really nice. It's my way of connecting with people and talk about all those things that I otherwise wouldn't really talk about. um, the biggest win for me from the blog, I think, is every time like a medical student or a junior resident sends me a message and say, "Oh, your story made me feel like I can relate," or "I was really inspired by this." Like those things really warm my heart. I think for me, those are like my best moments from the blog post stories, because that's like the kind of impact that numbers cannot capture. I can tell you that maybe this year 2,000 people read my blogs and all of that, but it doesn't have as much impact to me as someone's life being changed, or someone being inspired by me telling that story. So I absolutely love when people send me those messages, when med students say, "Oh, I can relate to this your med school story," or when my colleagues just start conversations around gender equity or about work and mental health, because I talk about all sorts of things on the blog. So yeah, it just stimulates conversations, and I really liked that. The challenges with the blog, I think now it's time. So it was easier to share stories when I was way junior because I had more time on my hands. Now I'm shuttling many things. I'm doing many other things on the side. Then there's residency. So shuttling, just trying to find that time where I can put my, like I have so many draft stories, but just putting them together into like a nice polished post that I can share with people sometimes is a bit challenging. And then the other struggle is just with like how much is too much. Like sometimes I want to share something and I'm like, should I share this? Should I not share it? Like in in this very moment, this thing that I feel, I'm still a resident. I still have to take exams and all of that. So sometimes I'm like, will this be problematic for me? taking exams, like, should I say or should I not say? So sometimes that's just some of the challenges that I have. But I think that I continue to use my platform to just uplift others, not just to document my own story. I also want these stories to be something to the people who read them.
Yeah, I love that. Um, yeah, you have to consider a lot of things. It just, it just goes to show you how toxic our environment is. Because what does it got to do with anything? You know, whether you pass your exam or whatever you do should solely be on your competence.
Yeah, it shouldn't be important, but there are times, well, you know how medicine is down here,
No,
so
trust me, I
there are
completely
times
understand.
that you're like, I don't want to fight with the bosses. I just want to be me, because me saying what my thought is on this situation, I know very well is not going to go down well with a couple of people. And so every now and then I have um to think about. And if you ask me, something that I really look forward to on the blog the most is a time when I can truly 100% say everything that comes to my head without fear of things being,
Retaliation.
yeah, just because I said what I said. But I still say what I want to say, low key, just, you know, like that. But yeah, the blog has been really good. It's like a good space to just encourage other people, uplift other people, and sometimes just vent. Sometimes really my posts are not uplifting, they're just me going on a rant because I am upset about something. But yeah.
Hey, we all needed some good rant sometimes, so not alone there. Um, yeah, so what do you see for the future of surgery, especially now that you're almost done with your training and you're gonna go into that professional life, and you're not somebody who is only doing one thing. You're doing so many things in different paths as well. Um, so, what do you foresee? What would you like to see? Um, how would you yourself as an individual also see yourself contributing for that future?
I think I don't know, that's a very big question, because there's so much that's possible. When you live and work in a society that has challenges, it means that there's so much to be done and so much that can be done, and sometimes you just don't know where to even start. But in my heart of hearts, if you ask me what my vision for surgery is at home or even here in Kenya where I stay at the moment, is I want to see a day where a patient at home has access to the same high quality care as someone who stays in a higher income country, for example, where it is not our geography or gender that determines what we get, where we go, what we have access to, and all of that. And in terms of like women in surgery, just a day where when the theater has when it's just full of skill and competence and diverse life experiences, not based on gender, not based on systemic biases or any of those things. So that's really like my hope in like the bigger sense of the word. But when I think about myself in particular and how I can contribute, like you said, now I'm a few months down the line from finishing my training, and I am going back home to Sierra Leone. So I don't know, sometimes I feel like there's so much to do, but my plan is to help make the trauma systems better, at least in like one hospital. If I can contribute to changing something in one hospital, or at least one hospital at a time, I think that would be really incredible. I am working on some projects trying to see how to get some equipment, some instruments down there, because the ortho is still a very, like a baby surgical specialty. In the whole country, we only have three Sierra Leonean orthopedic surgeons. So it's still a specialty that is struggling in terms of resources and all of that. So I am trying to rally around some people that I know, just some networks, to see how I can make that better. I tried applying for some funding to start a trauma registry. I'm still waiting to see how that goes. So yeah, there's like a couple of things that I'm trying to see how I can contribute to, but I also hope that I can join the university. I think the best ways we can give back is by teaching students, teaching residents, and just letting them know that there is knowledge to be shared, and experiences to be shared. So, yeah, those are some of the few ways that I think personally that I can contribute. But yeah, plans are still there. We'll see how the next few months play out.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you'll be successful in whatever you put your mind to, because just talking to you, and this is not the first time we've talked, but um I can tell when someone has not just a vision, a dream, and a potential, but also the ability to execute it. So I see that in you, and I am sure all these things that you've set out for yourself to do, though you will have no problem achieving. And yeah, when I do come and visit Sierra Leone, I'm gonna come to
Yeah.
your institution. Hopefully we could get to operate together.
Yes, I
Fingers crossed.
totally like that. I totally love that.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a fantastic conversation. So many gems, so many good stuff that you've shared. Um, and I know young women, especially young women watching this, are going to be extremely inspired with the message you've shared. And yeah, hope to have you back and, hear your journey while you're in it.
Thank you for having me. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
All right.
We'll be seeing you online.
Yes, 100%. All right.
All right.